Season 1, Episode 2, Chapter 2, Use It.
Welcome to Starting Now, a Barry podcast, presented by Cinemasins.
This is Chris Atkinson. We're doing the Starting Now, the Barry podcast. And this is Barrett Share to my left.
Hey, everybody!
And Mike Hester over here to my right.
You guys,
I'm gonna gloss right over that.
How y'all doing?
What was that?
All right, so Chapter 2, Use It.
Uh-huh.
The title is in reference to the actors using Ryan Madison's death in their acting skills. And man, that is as atrocious as it sounds.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because everybody is using they're using Ryan's death not only as a stepping point for their acting, but maybe possibly getting seen.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also using it to do whatever bullshit that they want to do. And it's the most ridiculous stuff ever.
Yep.
The centerpiece of this is all the actors at residuals doing performances because Ryan would want us to.
Yep.
On stage, and that's sort of his funeral wake type of thing that they're doing. Tribute to Ryan. So anyway, what?
I think this episode, particularly at the beginning, shows off Bill Hader's comedy chops more so than the first episode, where I think he had to lean in to the dramatic side more. From the first shot of this episode, it shows him doing that mirror exercise, right? Where they're doing the facial, and of course, Bill Hader's face is perfect for this.
Yes, it is.
He's doing the crazy, he's just expanding like Rubberman almost, and it's fucking great, man. They're doing this whole mirror thing, and that's when Henry Winkler comes in and said, "Ryan's dead."
Yeah.
This is not the first time I've had a student gunned down, and it won't be the last.
Yeah.
Well, and Barry has to do the mirroring thing because he doesn't know how to react. He has to look all around
my
like,
God.
no, Ryan is dead. I can't believe it.
So good. I like just before this news is broken, though, he's like, so why are we doing this? How does this make us become great actors again? And she's like, it clears your head.
Yeah.
They all believe all that bullshit Cousineau's telling them. All that kind of weird acting stuff. They're in.
That's real
I think those are
too.
Things. Yeah, that's a thing.
In the limited amount of community theater that I did and stuff at Belmont and stuff like that, they would do that bullshit. They would do alliteration exercises. They would do, mirroring exercises. They would do just stuff that you're like, really? But, as she says, it gets you out of your own head.
I could see some of it working, but with these set of actors, it just is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Because the guy, one guy who's very out there is like, I'm going to be next. And Cousineau's like, I bet you will be. Actually.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that follows this, he says, he dismisses them and says, use this time, all these emotions that you're experiencing right now, and pour it into your acting. And then he comes back and says, this class is certainly not on the house. Even though we're not in class, we're learning. And then he comes back into the frame and he's like, what I'm saying is that you have to pay for this class.
Yeah. He says everybody's responsible for
this
the full
class
boat.
counts.
Yeah, full boat.
This class counts.
This class counts. And it's like, that was the one moment out of maybe this entire series where I didn't buy that. Like, I know Cousineau's cheap, and I know that's a character trait and everything.
Well, this is consistent, though.
He did it in the first episode after he introduced him to the class,
and
he accepted him.
And in this past episode, and I can't remember if it's 3 or 4, Barry comes by and talks sort of like a psychological discussion, and he says, usually don't, my private classes are in a different kind of loan sector or something like that. Yeah. So I'm going to go get the paperwork for that.
You're right. It is consistent, but the way that it's delivered was just like kind of a weird, like almost only for comedic effect.
And
I think this one of the only nitpicks that I have about this entire series. But, obviously they are emotional, and that's where, when they're walking out, that's where Sally has that idea. We should do a performance for in honor of Ryan, and you get this wonderful. What we didn't mention in the last episode, Darcy Carden, who plays Natalie, I think, on this show.
It's Natalie Greer,
and she plays Janet on The Good Place, which I love. She's fantastic in that show, and you can tell that Sally is the alpha dog. And she's like, well, you can have it over at my place. And she's like, well, have it at Jack's bar or whatever it is. And she takes over, basically. And then they're off and running, man. This episode has a lot of everything.
Yeah. So Sally says, let's do a scene from Doubt.
Yes.
Because it was her last scene with Ryan Madison.
What we didn't mention in the last episode is that Fuchs actually asked him, he was like, you did a scene from True Romance? And he's like, yeah, it's LA. All the theater people, they do movies.
Yeah.
They do scenes from movies. It's the same thing every
day.
So all of these scenes are from movies.
Well, yeah, and what's funny though is that Doubt, I believe, started as a stage play, but they're talking about Meryl Streep and Philip Seymour Hoffman and all that. So yeah, they're gonna do Doubt, and that now is. Does she call him and say, let's do Doubt? Or is that because the call is a great moment.
Yes, it is.
So he's talking to Fuchs in this apartment and what they're going to do and all that. And he gets this call and he goes out and talks to Sally on this balcony while the Chechens come in and start beating Fuchs up.
God,
and Fuchs is like, hey!
This shows the duality as starkly as maybe any part of the early going here, because he comes in, he tells Fuchs to leave. You got to get the fuck out of here. They're coming after us. And Fuchs knows this, and he's like, well, I can stay. I've done some research on your video game thing, and I think we can take him out. No, you're getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Almost convinces him to leave.
Well, he also says, you need to get out of here while I stay here and take the heat.
Yeah, exactly. And to their mind, they've got the entirety of the Chechen mob after him, and they don't even know how big they are. They've got the people back in Chechnya, too, and so you can tell in Barry's face and mannerism, he doesn't give a shit about any of this stuff. Like, he could die tomorrow. He's just concerned about getting that call from Sally or getting on Facebook or doing this scene tonight, that kind of thing. And then that's what sets up that beautiful, like, almost like a cartoonish scene in the back. They're fucking slamming him on a chair. They're kicking him while he's down. Oh, it's great.
And then at the end of that, he's taken hostage. They had the gun on him, so you're coming with me. He didn't fight back nearly as much as Fuchs did.
No, yeah, he's just, he kind of see his shoulders slump a little bit.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because he walks in and there's a guy hiding behind the thing that's pointing a gun at him. So they go to Goran's house in his garage and they start working him over a little bit. And this is sort of a staple of the show. Every time Barry seems to get into some sort of like in a corner, there's a job that gets him out of it. And in this case, Goran is like, luckily for you, I have somebody else I need to kill, and none of these people in here can do it. And there's a great like little character introduction to all these people who can't do it for whatever reason.
He's a crazy person. No, this shows how this is a classic torture, dangerous scene, right? All the tension built up. They're tied up and everything. They're going to kill their asses, right? But then you've got Hank miraculously survives the shooting. He's like, this arm is bullshit. But he's reasoning with Barry. He's like, rage is not productive. I'm very angry with you, but it's not productive. And so you got Goran offering to hit and everything. Then you got the introduction of the guy that chops up people, Vajna or something like
wearing that vest.
Why does he wear this vest?
Why does he wear apron? It's an apron.
Why does he wear an apron? This doesn't make make any sense. It's like, this is crazy person. But you got Barry calmly like saying, I don't want to do this, man.
Yeah.
And he's like, why don't he do it? Oh, no, he doesn't.
Well,
Then you got the wife coming out and saying, we're making
too much noise.
Too much noise.
Because the kid's having a slumber party. But they also say they can't, since Barry killed the number one Chechen assassin. He's like, you killed the best one in all of Chechnya. He goes, he wasn't really that guy.
Oh, and that puts you in such a comfortable spot in this show because you know that even if things get dicey, like it's still going to have levity to it. And I love that. I love that. It's unique.
I love one of my favorite things is when they go and they're trying to convince Barry to do the hit. So they got to start torturing Fuchs. And they take, holy crap, they take out the tooth file and just, that's so painful.
No.
And while they're doing it, Noah Hank has out his phone. He's like, look, you have these bubbles, and you have these bubbles, so you can get these other bubbles.
It's like Candy Crush or something.
Yeah. It is hilarious. And then finally they stop whatever. And then a couple minutes later, they're gonna kill Fuchs. Finally, they're going to that point, and Barry finds, okay,
yeah,
I'll do it. It's as plain as he can be.
Yep.
And Noah Hank is like, that's so sweet. He cares about Fuchs.
It's interesting because that's an important characterization. Like it's an important realization for him that they know now they've got him by the short and curlies.
Yeah.
But also, it's a funny line too. You know. And then you have
and
the
it
debut.
makes Noah Hank kind of like Barry in a way. That's part of why he likes him.
Exactly. No, they start forming that bond. I mean, again, he literally just shot him.
Yes,
like the
I know.
night before.
But Noah Hank's like, well, I would have done the same thing. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
okay.
Yeah, so there are two moments, one in the apartment and then one here where Fuchs asks him, you know, so in the apartment he says, so you're going to what does he ask him? And Barry goes, yes.
Yeah.
Whatever he asks, he's definitely not going to do. But in the garage, Fuchs is like, so you're going to go right out and kill this guy? And he's like, yes. And then he just goes to that funeral thing.
Yes, right away.
Yeah. But the thing on the phone call is that she says something like, you'll play the Philip Seymour Hoffman character. He's a minister accused of molesting kids. And he goes, oh, I'd love to play a minister who's a priest who's accused of molesting kids. I'd love to do that. And then later on, when he finds out that he's like when they're rehearsing it in the back, he's like, this seems kind of serious. And he goes, it is serious. And he goes, oh, I thought it was supposed to be funny, like Family Guy.
I love that. That's just thrown away.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. So then you get the funeral, and you see this is the first time that you see how bad these folks are.
Gosh.
You got Yankee Doodle Dandy. You've got one of the guys dressed up like Colonel Sanders.
Yep.
And then you've got this This is my audition for detective or road cop number 3. Get down, motherfucker!
Yeah.
God.
And you have the guy who's doing the mime performance.
Oh, yes.
And like you hear the bowling pins, like you hear the ball going down the alley and the pins like getting knocked down before he even gets into the bowling motion. And then like gunfire.
Yep. So they bring up the dad from Wisconsin, which I thought was a nice little parallel for Happy Days.
Oh yeah.
They bring out the Ryan's dad, who's completely normal in this sea of non-normal characters. This guy comes out, says like a nice thing, and starts crying.
Yeah, says something like, "I love that these guys are you know, when he told me he was going to be an actor, I didn't know about it, but now that I've seen you guys, it's great."
Yeah,
which only makes it more poignant, and it just slays Barry. He's just not ready to see because he's never actually seen one of his marks. He's never seen how the after effects are because he's out of there. Mm-hmm. But in this case, he's not out of there, and so he goes off and he can't do the scene.
Yeah,
doesn't want to, which is good because it's a terrible idea.
Well, it is, and you know he's got that great freakout moment where it goes again. This show can switch gears from comedy to drama to suspense to thriller to even horror, like in a millisecond, and he freaks out. And then there's that great moment where he's like, well, I'd like to add some paint to my toolbox or whatever it is. And she smiles sweetly, and she's like, we'll help you. And there's this dawning realization on his face where it's like, it's silly and cheesy, but it's like, I don't have to do this by myself. He's always done everything by himself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he's got this support now. And you can literally see it dawning on him. As much as this show jokes around with actors having to go to places to properly get their stuff out. In fact, Henry Winkler made that comment early in the episode where he's like, when I want sorrow, I just envision my dad falling off of the ladder of that roof and then climbing back up on that roof. Hello, Daddy. But it's cliche, but you can see Bill Hader in this scene using something to emote that dawning realization. And it's very cool.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool.
Because
they're making fun of these processes, but they're also using them. Awesome.
Meanwhile, the cops are involved.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
And they're just as dysfunctional a group as the guys who are trying to find the password to the phone and everything. Those guys are great, man.
Yeah.
So we're introduced to the main detective here.
Janice Moss.
Janice Moss, played by Paula Newsome.
Mm-hmm.
And they found, they found the lipstick camera, and they're like, somebody who works with her has found it, but hasn't told her about it.
We thought it was a bong or something.
And so that's what they're trying to crack, right? They're trying to crack that lipstick.
Yeah, because they've got to get the adapter and like download the shit and all that.
Yeah. But she just starts trying to guess the password. They don't even bother to tell her that, that's probably not a good thing.
And because she goes through 3 and it's like, what's happening now? It's like, I think you locked it up. And it's like, why didn't you tell me about that? Well, we didn't want you to yell at us. And it's like, all right, I'm gonna have to call the FBI. Mm-hmm. And then there's this the other dude, the mustached
Loach.
Loach, yeah, who's they found crying in the back of the crime scene photos because his wife has left him. And so it's like, oh, that's $500 for me. With his and she says something like, wow, that's dark. He's like, well, come on, he's a homicide detective and she's a real person. That
never work.
Oh, she's such a great realized character. What's crazy is that they could take the easy route on her character. They could take the easy route on Loach because, he's a caricature. He breaks into tears as soon as she says something to him. But it's a thread that continues all the way into the second season for this guy. And, she's got a lot more going for her than just this tough-ass detective that has to get the job done and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. She's funny. She's warm. She's intimidating. She has that great line when she's like, now I got to call the goddamn FBI. Hi. Yeah. She's perfectly cat. I hadn't seen her before really in anything either.
The things that she's known for, Little Miss Sunshine, Things We Lost in the Fire, Guess Who, and Rain Over Me. And she's also on Chicago Med.
Okay.
But
the mini Chicago.
Yes. Yeah.
Chicago Med.
You don't know which Chicago I'm talking about. I don't know what Chicago I'm talking about. None of us have seen that.
ER was Chicago Med, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, okay, so we're basically at that last scene where he's walking her home, where Barry is
walking
scene
too.
Sally home, and you just subvert expectations.
Well, and she goes right into it and says, you know what? I've been through this a million times. You shouldn't sleep with each other. It just gets weird and everything. Is like, I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't been in this situation, it's totally new to him. So,
It totally blows her mind.
You want to come in and talk about how it's not a good idea?
Yeah. She's trying to get him in, but he's like, I wasn't even thinking about that. So.
Yeah. Well, plus, he's still on the clock. Like he's thinking about the stuff he has to do later on to negotiate with the Chechens because they still got Fuchs and all that stuff. So this is the furthest thing from his mind currently, and then just psychologically, he wouldn't even think about it, and it gets him into trouble. it looks like an important thing that the Chechen guy is photographing them at the door and everything, that he's really going to have something on it. But it ends up paying off in a completely different way later in the season, and it's fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's those little things, man.
They really do a great job of setting things up like that, and seeing how awkward of a person he is throughout just basically all of life, not only with women. So,
yeah, this is
part of why we love it.
This is a big setup episode, really, because you got the introduction of Janice, and she hasn't met Cousineau yet, right? And you've got the setup of the lipstick cam that has some footage on it, right?
Yep.
But we don't know what footage it is. It's like all these things. Yeah, I just know that they pay off later on individually, and oh man, it's cool watching it again to see like the ideology of it, how those are all like set up.
Yeah. There's nothing better than watching any kind of show, really, that introduces things and then you're like, oh, well, that was nothing. Like we grew up watching TV shows that would do this all the time, right? Would bring in something that we're supposed to worry about, and then by the next episode, it's kind of forgotten about it already.
Yeah.
I saw so many. This is way off topic, by the way.
Yep.
Way off topic. But I used to watch The OC a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an episode, like, I think this is when is it Ryan, the Mackenzie what's it? Ryan's the main dude in it. He had already broken up with the Misha Barton character or whatever. And so like he starts dating some other girl on the sly or whatever behind her, but I don't know what the hell happened. The girl shows up and he's there and Misha Barton's there
At a party, right?
at a party or something.
Yeah.
She shows up and that's the end of the episode. Like, oh no, what's going to happen? Next episode. No discussion.
Yeah,
Nothing
no discussion.
at all.
No
man.
discussion
Gone.
about
it.
Was that before or after she started dating Olivia Wilde?
I think it was before. Oh man, tell you what. The first time I saw Olivia Wilde
In the swimming pool, right?
No, she's at the bar. She's a bartender.
Oh, that's right.
I was just like, okay, I have officially seen the perfect woman. I don't need to see anybody else.
No other women. It's
yeah,
done.
exactly. It's done.
I'm done.
I'm done. She had been in a show called Skin before that, but I never saw that. So like, yeah, OC shows up just randomly as a bartender. I was like, damn. Anyway.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Barry.
One thing I wanted to say is there are a lot of things that are introduced. Like you've seen way more movies than I have, but we've all seen enough movies, and you see something act one, you're like, oh, they introduced this random thing. That's going to be a thing later on, and I kind of know what's going to happen. For me and Barry, and agree or disagree, a lot of things are introduced like the lipstick camera, and I can't tell you what's going to happen with it at this point.
Yeah.
It's like well ahead is like, you don't know what they're going to use later on, what's going to be really important, what's not so important. Is one of the many reasons I think it's such a great show is it takes you somewhere plot-wise. It's just you don't quite follow it. You don't know before it happens what's going to happen.
And I think that's where they really shine in the writer's room. This is Alec Berg, I think, is also writing on it.
Yeah.
Who obviously is a veteran of a million different like classic TV shows.
Yes, he is.
But it's like food waste, right? It's like if you get one of those meal plan services, they give you the exact amount to make that meal, and you don't have anything left over, right? It almost seems like in Barry, they took a look at their assets. They were like, here is this character, here is this device, whatever. We're going to work only with this. We're not going to have any leftovers, right? We're going to use only this, and we're going to move them around to where it has a satisfying conclusion.
Yeah.
Exactly as you were alluding to with this Loach character, that that in season 1, episode 2, they're talking about his wife leaving him. And you don't even think much about it, and it becomes a thing in season 2.
Yes. So I mean, and this isn't spoiling anything. I'm actually looking forward to how they pay off Cousineau's son, because that seemed like such an odd addition. It seemed like almost like a Poochie the dog type of thing, where it's like, oh well, what is this character? And it was out of place for me.
I know we're going to get to this, and it's going to be a while, but they had such a great first season, and I've seen enough television, and this show's not going to do this because it's too good, but so many times I've seen a great first season, and I have no idea what to do with the second season.
Yeah.
And the son is the one thing I'm legit worried about. Like, what are we doing here? Do we need this part of Cousineau? Now, I trust these writers.
I do
they're
too.
Gonna pay. This
Yeah.
is going to pay off somehow, but it's the only thing that I've seen that I thought, I don't know. But
Yeah.
we'll see. Hopefully it pays off in a great way. So
The last thing I'll say about this is that this is the second episode that Bill Hader himself directed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he had directed anything else. He started his career, from what I understand, behind the camera and always wanted to do this, but he directed the first 3 episodes, and the direction on those first 3, it's almost, I wouldn't compare him to Jordan Peele, but for a freshman effort, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You would think it's a much more experienced person.
That I would like to see what if he wants to do a movie, what movie he would come up with, because you see a lot of the same kind of traits that Jordan Peele has. When you saw Key and Peele, you knew both of those guys had a wealth of like movie knowledge, TV knowledge, like really respected the medium, all that. And like a lot of their sketches were just like, I mean, some of them are silly, like the East-West Bowl and all that. But then there were some that were shot with this amazing way of being. I mean, and that goes. That's a testament to their whole team too.
Yeah.
But you could tell just through the writing that they really knew a lot about movies and all that, and it's translated well for Jordan Peele as he's gone into movies. I think Bill Hader's the same way. If he wants to direct something, I bet it's going to be awesome.
I agree.
it makes it really rewarding to watch these episodes more than once. I've watched DC's first 2-3 times now, and each time I'm seeing facial expressions and little throwaway lines, and like we talked about earlier, where Fuchs went around on the chair. That's great. And I actually kind of missed that, but now I'm thinking, that was great.
And it's not only funny, but it's his character too.
And that's what, that's part of when you're seeing a really great movie. Part of the reason it's rewarding to watch it again is because there are all these things you missed, and you miss a lot of things, and that you pick up in this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's a rich show.
So what's gone for me after watching the first two episodes again? After it's been a long time since I've seen those first 2 episodes, but like just so many things came up in those first 2. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I'd forgotten about that. Okay. Well, that'll do it for episode 2 of Starting Now, the Barry podcast. This is Chris Atkinson, Barrett Scherer, and Mike Hester. We'll see you next time.